The following transmission is a conversation with Grim Doss, lead developer of the Fallout New Vegas mod, Fallout Chicago. Grim has a long history of editing and altering Bethesda titles, having put his skills to public test with his first official mod several years ago. Ambitious, even in his earliest days, he'd eventually gather a team to begin to craft a story and a world inspired by the city that he had come to love, both personally and as a Fallout fan. Over the course of our conversation, we'll talk about the current state of Fallout Chicago, the ambitious plans for this truly massive mod, and Grim's outlook on modding, the fandom, and the future of the community and the games we all love. I am follower Toshi, and this is the Atomcast. If you enjoy this episode, be sure to follow for future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads, to keep episodes ad-free, and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. As always, links to our Patreon, as well as guest socials, can be found in the description. And be sure to leave a comment recommending creators that you'd like to see as future guests. Without further ado, Grim Doss. So just to sort of like, get the sort of like big thing, quote unquote, out of the way, just because, I don't want to say it was sort of like the big thing, sort of attached to the mod. But like one of the more noteworthy things, that got brought up, by a lot of people who, play tested the mod, was the current, I say current state, which makes it sound like the whole thing is like, buggy and unplayable and just like a complete train wreck, which it's not. It's in my opinion, really well done for like what it is. But there were a lot of things that people sort of, picked up on, struggled with in certain aspects, thought were, confusing, this, that, and the other thing, et cetera, et cetera. Insert opinion here, for lack of a better word. But to the point, the demo anyway, which again, to preface, it's a demo, it's not the complete product and everything, but the demo, for lack of a better word, released with a strong foot forward, but probably not the best foot forward. There were a lot of pieces that seemed a little rough. But to that point, what can you, as the lead developer and everything, what can you speak to that specifically, to the the idealistic but realistic state of the mod's release?
Pretty much, I think what our main problem was just not having enough testers, really. And I think we've kind of like remedied that. And also we have a bunch of the community came together. It was really nice. We have a great community. Everyone's great. And the team just keeps expanding, and we're filling it with more, like a roster of better and better people. We got more modelers. And I think a big contention was, of course, the punctuation, grammar, and stuff like that, and which will be all fixed. It's just because I'm such a small team size that is a big problem. Things that get oversights when you're doing something so big, really. But I think the community's done a good job telling us what's wrong, giving us player feedback, taking photos, stuff like that, and just showing us what they think we should improve on, telling us what they liked. And I think that's really going to improve the mod. If we had taken this and then worked on it for another like 15 months, 2 years maybe, and then we had posted it, and then we hadn't known about all these issues like navigation, or certain doors are just not working correctly, or there's a bug with this, there's crashing when someone leaves an area. So it's just just a lot of testing needed, new models to help navigation. I think we need more signs. Just growing pains really that are all going to be fixed and alleviated eventually.
To sort of follow up with that, perhaps less of like, like an error with spelling and grammar and stuff, which I think maybe like one of, not the harder things, but one of the things that's probably more easily overlooked. Everybody makes spelling mistakes and stuff like that.
But when it comes to,
I was pretty egregious.
yeah, I like you said it. But like it was, it happens, and especially like me personally, I did, I was in like special reading classes and stuff until like my second year of high school. So like I'm not one to speak and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But like to the more the design aspect, because there, as far as like the gameplay itself. Because we can like look over like like spelling and grammar errors, like doors not working, like little things like that, where like, oh, this bit doesn't work or that bit doesn't work. But like to the design aspect of it, the level design, one of the things that I noticed is there's not really a whole lot of like map markers and stuff. Which in some cases, it like certain things that you need to do as part of the mission are pretty straightforward. Some a little bit less so, but if you like, if you put head to keyboard, you can figure it out. But one of the things that I sort of like, maybe not drew parallels to, but it feels like Fallout Chicago's design approach was sort of inspired more so by like older games, in sort of the Fallout adjacent categories, maybe something like the Wasteland series, where there's not really like map markers, but it sort of like tells the old school RPG style stuff where it tells you verbally what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go, but it doesn't like handhold and stuff like that. To that extent, how much of that design aspect or whatever design aspect you were going for with what has been released in the demo, and then maybe later on in like the full release, what sort of design aspect are you going at with the mod? Is that something that you're focusing more on, this less hand-holdy, no like map marker style of mission structure, or was that was that another shortcoming of the limited testing pool that you had as far as the release demo goes?
I think yeah, we're going to continue with no map markers, but I think it's my failing as the team lead to not have designed it. I think maybe that might have been limited resources, or maybe I just haven't done it correctly. Where I need to give the player more clues, maybe give them like kind of lead them in the right direction. Maybe not hold their hand, but at least say, hey, here's some steps to follow. And give them a better, like, I think navigation was the big problem. Not enough signs. The lighting doesn't always tell you where to go. Just stuff like that. Little things that I think we can improve over as we keep building the mod. And we're going to definitely go back and fix already established quests and other stuff. I think I cut a bunch of stuff from those quests just because we didn't have time to. So they'll have more things to do. And I think that'll also alleviate some of that. If I don't know what to do. Because I guess the design philosophy is I don't want to hold your hand, but I also want to give you a bunch of different ways to solve the quest. Like, maybe you go pickpocket somebody, or maybe you can lockpick this, or maybe you can go hack that, or maybe there's a secret way to kill everybody in this room. Like, just interesting things like that.
Yeah, multiple paths to accomplish the same objective.
Yeah.
Yeah. To sort of like take a step back here, away from the mod itself, because I feel like, I mean, there's probably other like big burning questions that people have about the, again, strong foot forward, but not the best foot forward for the demo. But to sort of like take a step back from that for a second, let's talk about you specifically. When it comes to your modding page, your public Nexus page, you have a very light mod history. You only have 2 mods released. You have another Fallout. They're both Fallout New Vegas mods, but you only have one other prior to that was made 2024?
2022.
Okay, yeah. So publicly, anyway, you have a very light history with modding and modding experience. And yet currently you're the lead dev of Fallout Chicago, which awesome. But when it comes to your modding history and your modding experience, let's walk back a little bit. What sort of got you into the modding community? Because I feel like a lot of people sort of casually get into the modding community either as a mod user or as an actual mod designer to, you know, varying degrees, a little like, oh, little thing here, little thing there, all the way up to, you know, somebody like you who's like actively designing levels and mods and stuff. But again, to that, where did you sort of like come into this this game design aspect of the community?
I think really, I mean, there's always just modding, like coming up. Like as a kid, we were playing. Oh, you all played New Vegas, or if you had a PC, probably. And then you just mod it and you add different things. Like, oh, you got a new weapon mod, do all this, and you slowly learn. I think I was playing Oblivion, and then I was like putting in console commands, and like I didn't realize later that that would actually help me like down the line, because a lot of those console commands are just scripting that you can do in the GEC or like the Oblivion creation kit, all that stuff. So I guess it was just like over the years and years and years, I just built up a repertoire. I mean, I worked in Unreal and in Unity. I used to mess around with like Halo Reach, Map Maker, all that stuff. I'd spend their hours just making maps. And just studying. I mean, I think I've studied like thief maps and all this, and just trying to build up my repertoire of being a good level designer and trying to give a good experience. And I mean, definitely the demo has taught me a lot too of what players need to navigate a level and not feel frustrated. I think getting into modding has just started like playing Oblivion, because you would just open the console command if you knew, and you could like give yourself a bunch of like items and stuff. You were really inquisitive when you were playing those games. I think you started learning code, and then you can take that, and it's actually just actual scripting you can put in the engine of like the creation kit or GEC. And then, just slowly building up my knowledge over time, maybe ever since I was a kid. I mean, I would always tinker with mods and stuff, and like give characters different stats in the GEC. So, I mean, I didn't officially publish anything, but I'd been working with the GEC for a very long time.
What was sort of like the first, like the GEC specifically? What was the first thing you used the GEC for?
I think that's hard to say. I think probably editing like Boone or somebody, or making like a small little area. Yeah, I think it's like just level design, probably. Just small little room, just tinkering around with the lighting and different stuff, and maybe messing around with player stats.
Just like little tweaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, little tweaks. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So how did like more so the big jump, right? Specifically from, because you know it's like one thing to make like, you know, like little, because like there's a lot of modders that do like little like redesigns for specific areas of the game or of the map.
I have one actually. Yeah. I have Novak.
Yeah, that was your other mod there. And then, you know, like people like Eleonora who focus on like house builds and stuff like that, focused areas where it's like a controlled area that they can sort of like build up and stuff. But like going from like something like that to like a big, you know, new world space mod is like a pretty big leap. So that
insane.
step specifically, yeah, right. That step specifically, how did you make that leap? And why specifically into something like Fallout Chicago, which I want to talk about more so specifically later, but for the context of like this question, is a big mod. It's a pretty big mod. So like what was the in between there? Because again, that's a big jump.
Yeah. I think I worked with an Unreal and Unity for a little bit, trying to build like a concept in there. Got frustrated with Unity because they kept breaking because the auto updates. I'll never forgive them for that. I didn't know how to turn auto updates off back then, and then so I switched from that to Unreal. I made some prototypes. Like I was making like a Thief prototype. Like it was kind of like Thief, Dark Project. I'm working on some other stuff in Unreal while I have the free time. Most of my free time's, you know, this and my family. It started out as like a small tunnel, And then eventually, the team grew and grew and grew, and it just became bigger and bigger. I mean, honestly, it was going to be kind of a small enclosed world space, and then we were like, okay, I think we can do this. And kind of kind of inspired me to do more like retro future, like really tall buildings, very urbanized, like world. And then I also I love Mercenaries too, World in Flames. So I always love going around and kind of be like a mercenary and blowing stuff up and fighting, like having faction warfare.
Because Chicago in the Fallout universe is such a sort of uniquely interesting place. It's right up there with like other like sort of older game inspirations, like Austin or Denver, and a lot of these more like Midwest locations. I feel like especially with like the first two games, we see like a lot of California, right? And then well, we see a lot of Californias with with the first two games, and then Fallout Prime, the TV show, and then we see a lot of the East Coast with more Bethesda focused games. But when it comes to the Midwest, we sort of explored it with some of the older like spin-off games like, Tactics and Brotherhood of Steel and stuff like that. But not so much in like the new iteration of Fallout, the quote unquote modern iteration from like Fallout 3 onward. But when it comes to the work you're doing with Fallout Chicago specifically, I guess the first big question would be, what sort of led you into the location itself, Chicago, as the choice for the setting of the mod? What was the inspiration there? What drew you to this location of all places?
I grew up going back and forth there between families, so I kind of got a good lay of the land there, and I always thought it was like being a little kid, like Chicago was like massive to you. So I always kind of wanted to give that feeling to the mod, that it was like massive, like everything's around you is like bigger than you, and you're just this kind of little ant in this giant city, and things are. It's not you don't determine everything, but you're a big player, but I want you to feel at least somewhat tiny in the grand scheme of things. And just building upon that, and then it's a good location because not much stuff has been done there, so I can kind of just do my own lore and not have to worry about stepping on any like toes or anything. Add a bunch of new factions, and it like allowed them to be kind of big and like intimidating, because if I've done something in like near California, I'd have to incorporate like NCR and different stuff. And yeah, just great history, really. I love Chicago. It's got a crazy history between just, Dillinger was there. We got Capone. You got really giant shipping. Everything went through Chicago almost at one point. It was built on a swamp. That's insane. Like they just raised the land up. It's a very rich and I think a beautiful city, even though like it's going through tribulations now.
But when it like comes to the lore specifically, like we obviously don't know a lot about Chicago in the lore, but we know like a little bit. We got a lot of it in maybe not a lot of it, but a lot of maybe a decent amount of the information that we got came from Fallout 4. There's bits and pieces of lore that we get from like, Fallout 76, and then of course, other bits of places from the lore. But from like a lore perspective, was there anything from that side that sort of like drew you to the more so the setting, right? The setting of Chicago in the Fallout timeline. Because like, especially to the point that you brought up, where it's like, the size of the city itself, and a lot of the sort of the style of infrastructure that Chicago has. It's not like, God, I can't remember the word, but it's a very like old, sort of like a little bit Art Deco, but also like futurism sort of style to it, which obviously in the Fallout universe is just like amplified, because that was kind of the whole thing. But when it came to the lore and the presence that it has in the actual Fallout universe, was there anything specific about it that drew you to that aspect of it, other than just like the size of the city itself?
Yeah, the size of the city, its history. I think just that Midwest Brotherhood being there, I think, is awesome because I think they deserve their little time to shine. And they were like just how brutal. They were like an interesting thing because they were so brutal, but they wouldn't like list anybody. Like they'd have super mutants, they have ghouls, death claws. They didn't care. Like as long as you followed the rules, you could be a part of the Midwest. I think that brings an interesting dynamic to the Brotherhood.
How so?
I guess they're just not like you go to any Brotherhood, they'll never allow a Deathclaw in their ranks
That's true.
or super mutant. They'll just shoot them. You're dead. Like go to Lions, they'll shoot them. Go to Hidden Valley, or you go to whatever's left of them in California.
One of the interesting, like specifically about to sort of like, you know, not sidestep, but like gets sidetracked a little bit. One of the interesting things, I recently was able to get in and play a little bit of Fallout Tactics, and it was really fun. It's a little bit harder to run, and it unfortunately has the same sort of issue that a lot of the older games suffer, in which you know, compared to a lot of stuff that we have now, it's much more antiquated controls, antiquated like play style, this, that, and the other thing. Still fun, but is definitely, you know, a game of its time. But of what I was able to play of the game, the sort of tone that the Brotherhood has, because they're like the group that you play as in Fallout Tactics is the Midwest Brotherhood, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's funny because a lot of people talk about Fallout 4 and how they sort of made, you know, the Brotherhood of Steel more like, like pseudo authoritarian, or like was it technocratic, you know, something like that, where, you know, they sort of cite that as like, this is where Bethesda sort of like started propping up that like the Brotherhood were just like, you know, no better than raiders that just have better technology and this, that, and the other thing. But then when you play a little bit of Fallout Tactics, and I mean a little bit because I only got like halfway through like the first mission before it crashed. But just hearing like some of the characters speak and the way they like talk about the faction and their mission and stuff like that, it kind of feels like, you know, Black Isle was sort of like already going in that direction, and already sort of like establishing the Brotherhood as, you know, a bit more altruistic, maybe not altruistic, but a little bit more like ideologically positive in a sense. But we're still sort of like, you know, setting them up as that. When it comes to the Midwest Brotherhood specifically, as a faction, did or does that more I guess morally gray side of the faction, did that play to what degree did that play into how you think about approaching the faction in the mod, if they're going to be included in the mod at all, but like their presence in that area, and how that presence has sort of like helped shape the air of the region.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think. I mean, Act 2, we're gonna do more with faction quests. So the demo was just an Act 1 thing, and I think the Brotherhood as a whole are going to play a major part. And I think the morally gray aspect, does make them more interesting. I kind of wanted both sides of the Civil War between the Brotherhood to be morally gray. I didn't want them both to be like, oh, one's a goody two shoes and one's like super evil. I think they both have positive and negative traits. Because I think I love New Vegas, but like Caesar's Legion is just ultimately haha, I'm doing an evil playthrough choice. I don't think that's really a hard choice for anyone to make, really.
Yeah, that's true.
No, slavery.
Yeah, I was waiting for the like but and of that, but maybe not like but like and like therefore, and then I'm like, No, yeah, that's actually the full completed thought. Yeah, bravo.
No,
What
there's
is
no
to be
but
said?
and. I'm not signing. I've never signed. I still. That's my last achievement I have to get is render unto Caesar. Never got it.
I think I did fucking like I played New Vegas like when it first dropped and stuff like that. So like, you know, I probably did a playthrough like just once to like, oh, let's see like what this ending is like and stuff like that. Every other opportunity I take, I just grease Caesar as quickly as possible. Like speed run.
Every startup, I always kill them as soon as I meet them.
Right. I did a playthrough of a short playthrough of New Vegas for a stream a while ago, and I get to Novak. And like I got all the DLCs and stuff, so I'm out of Doc Mitchell's house with like the spears, the armor, the fucking grenade gun and stuff like that. I roll up into Novak and
Oh yeah, it's not even an issue.
Yeah, Volpace is all talking shit and everything. It's like, oh, if you feel strongly about it, do something. I'm like, fucking bet. Poof, poof.
You let them talk? I don't even give them the chance. I just throw some mines down and hit them with the thumper, and they're dead.
Like do.
Like, hey Volpez, I want your hat. I'm gonna put it on my stand in Novak.
Right. Get rolled, nerd.
Average cosplayer.
Yeah, I know, right? So to again to get back onto Chicago specifically, because we could spend forever dunking on the
dog
Legion.
pounding the Caesar sleeves.
Nice skirt, dweeb. But to Chicago specifically, obviously, especially in reflection to like, again, like the lore and stuff. Obviously Chicago is because like, you know, the Legion specifically, they say, oh, like all land east of the Colorado belongs to Caesar. And it's like, fucking bro's just out here saying shit, you know, he doesn't have like the men to like keep track of like Chicago or like, you know, fucking like Pittsburgh or, you know, really anything farther than like maybe the Mississippi. But then like to that aspect, obviously like the Legion, I don't know, for Chicago specifically, the Legion probably has a little bit of like notoriety there, but to the larger point, the I guess more so we'll sort of break this down. The larger concept of Fallout Chicago, maybe not so like in specifics, but the larger narrative, because every narrative sort of has like a theme or a tone to it, something that they're trying to elicit in the player, or something that they're trying to bring up as sort of like a conversation with the player. With Fallout 3, it's, you know, it's actually kind of funny. With Fallout 3, I would argue it's probably like the most depressing, because it's this whole concept of like, with like the macro story, like you can never go back, right? There's no going back to like simpler times. There's only the now and like what's to come, the future ahead, and you know how you can like have an impact on that. With New Vegas, I would say that again, when you take the larger meta narrative, like you include all the DLCs and stuff, it's all about letting go. Right. The larger narrative is about letting go and moving on and this, that, and the other thing. With Fallout 4, it's sort of the same, but more so like a mix of the two, like, you know, like very, very similar themes of like not being able to go back and like moving forward and like, you know, what's ahead of you, getting into more like macro, like getting over loss and stuff. Like, you know, you lose your spouse, you most likely lose your kid, and then like, you know, what's after that and stuff. And then, you know, on and on and on like that. But when it comes to Chicago specifically, what is more so the macro tone or the macro conversation that you're trying to have with the player?
Yeah, I think Tim Kaine said it best. I think he said Fallout was about giving the player like power and seeing what they're going to do with it. And I think we're really trying to study how like war and religion and or not study, but like get our ideas out there about like how all this feeds into the macro narrative and it's like yeah, like just the theme is that power and like power corrupts, and like I want to see if the player will give up some of their humanity just for some power, or maybe they might choose something because they have the power to do something.
Is that something specifically that you're approaching from a gameplay style, or is that like the overarching plot line of the narrative? Because one of the things that, especially in, I mean, it's not exactly it's not exactly summing up what's in my head, but like,
Yeah.
the term ludonarrative dissonance, which you probably
Mm.
also
Oh yeah, yeah.
understand. Yeah.
Every
But I'll
YouTube
just,
essayist.
yeah, I'll just go into it for the audience. Basically, the long and short of ludonarrative dissonance is it's a disconnect between the narrative that's being told and the actions that the player can take. The best example, maybe not the best, but one of the best examples, is Grand Theft Auto 4, where narratively, the main character Nico Bellic has been through a lot of shit in like various Eastern European conflicts. And he's done some like really bad stuff. And
Yeah.
he's trying to like, be a better person, not be like the violent person he was before, and just trying to like, live a good life. But then once you're out of the cutscene, you can immediately jump into a car, run over like 7 blocks worth of people, jump out, and then just start like one hitting like cop cars with bazooka launchers and stuff like that. So bit of a disconnect there. But where I think both of those things can sort of like meet naturally is something like Red Dead Redemption 2, where the narrative can also sort of wrap into the gameplay and how the player chooses to play, and vice versa. The gameplay can wrap into the narrative that's being told.
Yeah.
With what you said, with giving the player like, the power to do what they want effectively, and like seeing what they do with that. Is that something that you're like, that specifically, is that something you're leaning more into exploring with the actual like gameplay side of the game, or is that something that narratively you're like building a series of ladders for the player to climb to where they hit that point, and then it's sort of like, okay, which way is this ladder going? Is it going to lean forward? Is it going to lean backward? Or is it going to stay stable?
Yeah, I think it's going to encompass both of the things. I really want it to be all the narrative and the gameplay, because I think I'm building on that in the gameplay sector. Like you can sell drugs, you can buy businesses, and I want them to be reactions to that. Like maybe certain things will happen if you sell drugs, or maybe you sell arms to somebody that you shouldn't have, and there good people die because of it, and you wanted to make a buck. You didn't really think about it at the time. So I think, and then also with the narrative and the story, I think it's going to cover that as well. With the characters, NPCs you find, I guess just try to find the humanity and the inhumanity of people in the mod.
So you kind of just said a lot of shit right now, which definitely caught my attention there. You can sell drugs, you can run arms, you can buy not properties, you can buy businesses. You got me fucked up right now. But so it's like let's once again take a step back and start with the story of Fallout Chicago, the story that you're building here. Maybe not go into like, I mean, you can go into however much detail you want, but
Yeah.
the story. And to start that off specifically, there's technically 2 different sections of Fallout Chicago that we explored in the demo. There's the what I'm going to refer to here as the mezzanine area, It is the location that you enter before you actually enter the building. The building being the city of Chicago. The mezzanine in this case is the tunnel systems that you start off in. You take a train that starts, or you go up to you're walking up to Jacobstown, and you find a train station. You take that train station, and it takes you to a metro level of Chicago. And then once you do stuff in there, you actually find the exit that actually goes out into Chicago. Let's start with that mezzanine area, the tunnel systems, the old train stations of Chicago. First, to the point, the narrative. Does the narrative of what's going on in this tunnel system connect to what's going on above ground in Chicago? And to begin, what is the story going on in that mezzanine system, both from a narrative perspective and from just like a meta perspective? Why are we dropped into a metro system when we first enter into Fallout Chicago?
Okay, so mainly it's because that underneath Chicago is actually a bunch of tiny tunnels that businesses use to move supplies. So it's not really a metro; it's more of a storage tunnel where they would ship coal and different products around, and they would use it for heating sometimes. So like the reason why that's down there is kind of like a part of Chicago history, and it kind of made sense that like people would go down there, and if it's like nuclear winter, then like yeah, they're gonna go places that are gonna be warm, and maybe there's some things going on there, including old pre-war like companies and different stuff that I want to eventually put more lore into the beginning area. Definitely the beginning area needs a lot more work, and it's definitely not finished. And yeah, and I think navigation was a big part of that, big problem, and we need to finish that up. And we got more signs. Like a lot of the modelers are helping out with that. So expect more lore to come out of there, especially with what you see around the mezzanine, as you would say.
Okay, so from a gameplay perspective, that makes a whole lot of sense, because like you were talking about earlier, one of the larger like real world figures in Chicago's history was Al Capone. Time wise line, like the point where like our timeline and the Fallout timeline separate, I think was like 1945, and I think that is post. Like the divide happens, like Al Capone is like a present figure in both timelines, if that's the point where it divides, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, I think he would be considered. I mean, like, it depends though, because each game's different. Like, even Tactics had like George Bush speaking, so like even George Bush was still around in Fallout Tactics lore.
That's fair. the eternal.
The eternal George Bush. Can't get fooled again, huh?
The consistent. Again, well, more so to the point. As you mentioned, he was a big character in Chicago's timeline. Mafia. Obviously, they're involved in running drugs and running booze, in running arms, this, that, and the other thing. So obviously, the tunnel systems would be a staple in that regards. And as with regards to Chicago's history, that makes a whole lot of sense. From the narrative perspective, like the opening of a play out how the mod is supposed to like open. The curtains open up. What is the beginning of the narrative? What is the feeling, the ambiance of us first stepping into the world of Fallout Chicago? Because like think of it similar to like New Vegas, where like you go through the intro, you build your character and stuff, and then the curtains open, you're walking out of Doc Mitchell's house, the play begins. What is the beginning of the play for Fallout Chicago?
I think we just need to implement more stuff. Like I wanted to add like a little note where posted around maybe Good Springs and all over different locations that are like, hey, there's a guy offering a lot of money to do mercenary work, and then you finally hear about it and you go to the Atomic Wrangler, and you kind of like, I'm going to add more NPCs there clearly, and they'll be like, hey, if you need a job, go talk to Bohan in the back. And then he'll kind of direct you there. And then I also want to expand out the Atomic Wrangler area. I want to add like his assistant too. I didn't have time to find an actor for that, so I want to add his like assistant out the front, and he'll take you in and give a little more ambiance. Maybe just make it a little more creepy. I definitely want to give off the vibe he's a like a government agent that was like been alive for a long time. It's kind of part of like the big game, you know. In what is it? Which DLC it when you go to? It's not the pit. It's Point Lookout.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, yeah. So like he's a part of the big game, is quote unquote. That was kind of a running theme in Fallout 3 and some other lore. Is that there's just all these like super old people who are like trying to play the game to win. Kind of like how the TV show took it a little bit, but this was before that.
All right. So then what we like the opening of the curtains in Fallout Chicago, the demo version is more so like it's not like the beginning, but it's like, you know, for the purpose of like, here's a demo of the game. It's more so like a technical beginning. Like it's just like getting you into the physical experience of the game, and not so much the emotional narrative experience of the game.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, if you look around, there's some characters that'll give you some clues about what's gonna eventually be a thing and a big overarching narrative of what's going on, really.
Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, I'm with you there. So to the mezzanine specifically, the tunnel area there. You have the sort of like beginning section of the mod, and then you have the second section of the mod, which is like the whole of Chicago there. What is the narrative the narrative bridge there, like narratively, maybe in more so like a macro or like an emotional state, or emotional like, you know, through point. What is the path where we go from the wasteland, or from the Mojave, and then we enter the tunnel systems, and then from there, what leads us further into Chicago?
So pretty much, you can go exploring around the tunnels, and I really wanted you to find one of the companions. I might change the location of one of the companions because I'm not sure if everyone found them, and maybe I'll add some things to kind of direct them, like nudge them, like, hey, you should go talk to this person in this area. But yeah, pretty much, I don't want you to get invested in the companions, and I plan to have there's actually two companions, and one of them's fully voiced, the other one's not in the tunnels. It's kind of like slowly building a roster of people. Like if you do the first quest, you start learning about the Technomancers and the Union Mafia, and how Ramses and this warlord kind of controls that area and trade. And man, there's some shady figures there you can do some thieving for. They might be up to something. Who knows what their goals are. And kind of just eventually, there's going to be way more NPCs there too, because it's just, you know, demo. I gotta thank Veda, because like she saved our bacon. Like I don't know where I was going to get a bunch of more voice actors, and now I think we're just overflowing with VA that are going to help kind of explain the world more, give a more human feel, make it feel more alive. Because right now, it needs to have more generic VA. I mean, I think you've noticed that most of the characters don't have generic VA.
Yeah, I kind of figured that because it was like a demo, you know, like you got characters here. It's not, you know, the most critical thing for them to be voiced. There's, you know, basic NPCs and stuff, which, like, you know, okay, that makes sense. So then from there, you're actually like out in Chicago and stuff. I think maybe the thing that we've sort of been like tiptoeing around, which you yourself have sort of like brought up a couple times, is sort of like the story, and then like the factions that you have present in Chicago. So I guess the first thing would be like, what is after like what nearly an hour into the conversation, which is like, you know, it's a long form podcast. That's just the way it goes. What is the story of Fallout Chicago?
Well, like the whole thing, like the overarching narrative, like.
I mean, like, you don't have to go from like well, it all started back in
Yeah, I know,
1982,
exposition,
like,
man.
and then like 2 hours later, and like, and then they kissed and everybody lived happily ever. No, but like, the big picture story, like, with Fallout 3, it's like, young vault dweller leaves the vault to go find his dad, and along the way experiences XYZ, and teams up with the Brotherhood to save the wasteland and this, that, and the other thing. For Fallout New Vegas, Courier gets shot in the head and then goes after his attacker, looking for answers, and gets caught up in shenanigans, et cetera, et cetera. The again, not the entire thing, because I don't think anybody wants to talk about like spoilers for the story or anything, but like the overall story idea that you're building with Fallout Chicago.
I think the hardest thing is I'm not trying to tell a very traditional story in the sense. In a way, I want the sum of the parts are going to equal the whole thing. Is what I'm saying. So like every place will have these little nuggets of information almost, and they'll have characters that I want at least to somewhat get people emotionally involved with. Some are not, like plenty of them are not in the mod yet, of course. Like I want you to meet the Union Mafia's daughter and the Union Mafia's son who's taken over after his assassination. I want you to meet the king of the Midwest and the elders, and how they can entrance you into maybe joining their cause. The separatists, stuff like that, and get into their lore more. The story definitely does need more clues and lore, though. I mean, so it's a demo, so I think it'll be added eventually, and I think it'll be way more smooth when that happens.
Okay, so then you're sort of approaching it more in like a what would it be? Sort of like a not so much non-traditional style of storytelling, but more so in an indirect sort of way, kind of something a little bit like Elden Ring, for example, where you're sort of like fed bits and pieces of the larger like lore of the region and like what's going on and stuff like that. As opposed to a directly narrative thing where like with like again with like Fallout 3, where like you get the intro section, and then you leave the vault, and then you're sort of like not directly, but like nudged towards like Diamond City, and then like you get a little bit more of the story, and then you go somewhere else and you get a little bit more of the story, and like it's like a stepping stone kind of thing, but it's all narrative driven, whereas with something like Elden Ring, you have like a basic goal and a basic direction, but it's more so guided by like the actual gameplay. Would that be fair to say? It's something a little bit more indirect as far as like the narrative.
Yeah, kind of like that, and I think you say like Elden Ring that's a good example, because you'll go to these places and you'll talk to the NPCs, and what I wanted was just more play interactivity with those NPCs, and I think there's a sandbox. Like I told you, you can go ambush caravans from the Brotherhood or the Separatists, or you can go sell drugs, and there's only this sandbox element to it, of course. Yeah, I think what you said about Elden Ring is like 100% right. Like you're gonna have like different lores peppered in everywhere, and there of course is an overarching narrative, but it's told in these little nuggets like around. And I want you to have more interactivity with the NPCs, and so eventually you'll piece all these things together and like come to the conclusion of what's actually going on in Chicago and what's going on between these factions, but also building relationships with people like in different factions, so you can experience so it's not just exposition, man. You can kind of experience how these people feel and why they're part of those factions. Like I want you to meet the king and get enticed by him, and like kind of he's very charismatic, and maybe he might win you over, or maybe you go talk to the separatists and maybe they win you over, or maybe you're just hanging out with the Union Mafia and you want to do like a regime change because you like a different person. But it's definitely you got to go to different places, because you're like, yeah, you're sent. Oh, go to Union Station, and just the game. My mod's just like, yeah, here, go have fun and try to explore the system so far.
Yeah, and I think like from what because like again I played the mod on stream and stuff like that. From what I experienced, I think that kind of makes a little bit more sense because one of the things that I noticed that I don't think I really like put two and two together when I was playing it was you're in the mod starts you off is just like a direction you can go in the main game. Like you talked about earlier, you want to have more of a like, hey, go to the Atomic Wrangler. There's a guy out there, giving out work and stuff like that. And you go there and you talk to the ghoul, and he's all like, go to Chicago, look for this guy, yada yada yada. And then you go there. You're in the tunnel system to start, and then you leave the tunnel system, and then you're in Chicago, and then you like walk all the way to the other side of the city, which was fun to just kind of like walk around and explore, especially since it was basically just like a big empty city, not really like so many enemies, and it's like it's a demo, so it's just like showing off the world space and stuff.
Yeah.
But the like location you have to go to is way on the other side of the map. And at first I'm like, man, like there's going to be like a whole lot of like extra stuff in the middle here that they're going to like, fill out eventually. And like, that's where the bulk of the content is going to be. But I didn't really put two and two together in like how that would connect to like the narrative. Because like to go back to Elden Ring, that's also like the same thing. Like you start off on one side of the world and then your end goal there is like all the way on the other side of the world. And again, the thing that's driving you in that direction is just the exploration of the world and less so the narrative or the story. You're just kind of like, what's over there? I wonder, like things are going good, looking kind of crazy over there. To that point though, the thing that sort of like slows down the gameplay is the increase in difficulty when it comes to like enemies and like the actual like dangerousness of the world itself. When it comes to Fallout Chicago, in that same sort of design philosophy, what is sort of the what is basically the thing that's going to stop me from like getting off the train and like assuming I like where I'm going and what direction to go to? What is the thing that's sort of slowing me down or preventing me from just making a straight beeline to Union Station and missing out on a lot of the narrative stuff that you've built up? Or is that like not something you're trying to like prevent the player from being able to do, but are more so like encouraging them to do?
Yeah, I think it's just because it's such an early state that like that world space is very much empty, and that's mainly just because I was like worried about performance a lot, and I'm trying to like it seems to work fine. So now I feel more like confident in that I can add a lot more NPCs to the world space, and then we need to add more interiors. Interiors are just a huge problem in these kind of gigantic world mods because you'll notice that a lot of them you can't go into yet. Because like you got to build an interior. Are you going to build an interior for every building, or are you going to just do some? And then how do you tell the player, okay, these buildings you can go into, but these you can't? And then I think in that section there does need to be more meat, and I think there'll be not just more sandbox stuff, like you can go around there and sell drugs and attack patrols and get kill some bounties and get dog tags off dead soldiers and sell them, or do quests for the Brotherhood, which is going to come in Act 2 because you're going to be doing more faction related quests in that. And I think a lot of the community wants us to add the Goblin Wars mechanic from Oblivion, which is where they would random patrols would have a special totem, and whoever had the totem was winning the war, and they would have to take the totem all the way to the enemy goblins' territory and try to like win the battle there. So I kind of want a lot more like NPC battles between the factions in the northern section of the map. And then at the more south you go, you'll get a lot more dangerous creatures. And I also have there'll be even different biomes like the Abyss and then Millennium Park, and the east side of the map's going to be more swampy area. So there's definitely a lot more meat that's going to be put in the mod. This is honestly, I would say this is the bones. Like this is like the carrier eater ate all the bones, and then we got to re-put the meat on it right now.
Yeah, because it sounds like I was talking about in like actually playing the mod. It's like, okay, so they sort of got like, they got the map figured out, or at least like, the basic structure, the basic shape of the world. And then like, as the mod is being developed and stuff, like they're going to, tinker with it, add new stuff, et cetera, to sort of like flesh it out. And to the question, like how, like, what are you going to do to like stop me from just like being able to just like go straight for Union Station? You're talking about like the dense, maybe not the density, but like, well, I guess that's also a more interesting question.
Yeah.
Like the further, like the closer you get to Union Station, you said it's going to be like more dangerous and stuff. Are you building out the danger faction wide, or are you building out tall? To expand on that a little bit, is it going to be more so like the number of enemies, or is it going to be like how dangerous each individual enemy is?
I guess I think we're gonna do different types of things. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, this one has more damage, this one has more health. I want to do like, okay, so these come in waves, or maybe like I'll have like one of the things I'm working on is kamikaze drones. So I want them to like swarm you and like attack you all at once and try to blow you up. So and like I'm working on like a stalker type enemy where he'll like snipe you from afar, and you'll have like this battle with him where you don't know where he'll be. So he'll take a shot and he'll like run off, and you'll have to go find him. So I definitely want to add different fun gameplay stuff to the enemies. I think if you made it all the way south near Chinatown, you've seen some of the new enemies too.
Yeah. So it's more so sort of like random encounter style, where like there's like you were talking about with like the like somebody snipes you and then they like run away, and like if you want to like take care of them, like you got to go after them. And it's more so like the like amount of like unique situations that can happen in those areas that sort of, draw you into combat or draw your attention away from your primary objective to make you deal with like a threat, as opposed to like, further north, where it's like that happens less often, so it's a little bit easier, but then like further south it happens more often.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of like that, actually, because like, like it like again, like to the like different again, to like bring it back to Elden Ring, you sort of start off in like the beginning area, and like for like newer people like me, to the like that style of gameplay, the beginning stuff it's harder on its face, but then like as you like slowly level up and like get better armor and stuff like that, it becomes a little bit easier. But it's not as frequent. Whereas you get further into the game, and there's more enemies more often, but then even further into the game, there's not as many enemies, but they're a much bigger challenge in a sense. But it sounds like you're sort of doing like a mix of that, where you have unique interactions. It's not just like, oh, here's like, here's like a bunch of like little bad guy number 7 or like big bad guy number 3, right? It's more so like specific kinds of encounter that I would imagine would scale for like different difficulty, but it's not just like, oh, I ran into like a big bad guy and now I got to fight him. It's like, here's a scaled difficulty, like different interactions, right? Like I said, unique interactions, and like harder ones are going to be more, maybe not more frequent, but more likely to be found further south as opposed to further north.
Yeah, of course. And I think we also want the environment to change around the enemies. Like, with more south you go, it's going to get like you're going to go deeper into the earth, because our plan is to have the abyss, which is like all these giant cracks in the earth, and it's like all like radioactive and stuff. And there's going to be like it'll be the most dangerous area. So you'll have a lot of verticality, and maybe you'll get ambushed in certain ways. I love writing scripts, ambushing the player and setting up traps. Like, did you go in the police station in the mod?
I think.
You did? Okay. My one of my favorite traps there was when you walk up near the stairs and there's just the baby carriages and they just fall down the stairs.
Yeah, I did. I remember that. I was like, whoops. And then I'm just like, nope. And I just fucking went back and then they exploded on the stairs somewhere. And I'm like, not going to get me today.
Yeah. I love doing stuff like that. I think one of my first mods, what I did is I put a bright quantum Nuka-Cola in the dark or on a tripwire. And so you'd like, oh, Nuka-Cola. And you'd like trip over.
That's funny. I really like that.
Like
okay. Yeah. So I think from like a gameplay perspective, I think that's really interesting. From both like a gameplay perspective, like how you're designing these, how you're designing difficulty period, because like you said, you know, it's kind of boring when it's just like, oh, they have more health or, oh, they do more damage. You can always like kit out enemies with like better gear, better weapons, better armor, stuff like that. And that's like one thing, but then like it kind of gets a little bit repetitive sometimes. But you're approaching it from a much more like gameplay style focus, both when it comes to like the actual gameplay, combat specifically, but then also the narrative, which I think is really cool. And I think that's a really unique idea for a Fallout mod. But then at the same time, I worry slightly that it might be too unique for a Fallout mod. So you talked about playing New Vegas specifically. I don't know wherever specifically your Fallout history starts. And then like looking back on that for how long you've actually been in the Fallout community, how do you think, more so rather, do you think that specific style, that specific approach to game design and narrative structure is something that the Fallout community is going to respond positively to? Do you think it maybe not? Let me walk that back a little bit. Not so much respond positively to, but do you think it's something that the community is going to perhaps more so naturally pick up on, right? Because I feel like sort of every Fallout game, going all the way back to the first one, has a much more traditional RPG standard about them. And you can make the argument to whatever degree you think that, like, you know, Bethesda's iteration of the series follows along the same line. But the macro sense is they all follow a very traditional RPG approach to both gameplay and narrative. But the design philosophy that you're coming at with Fallout Chicago is more so like, you know, like Souls-like, which, you know, gamers are becoming more and more fond of, and I would argue have been fond of for a while. But in the grand scheme of things, to the larger macro point, the Fallout community doesn't exactly have that same mindset approach when it comes to that specific style of gameplay. So again, to the question, do you think that the style you're coming at with Chicago is something that Fallout fans are going to be able to easily, you know, segue into? Is it something that you're sort of like making a little bit more quote unquote Fallout friendly with this design philosophy? Or are you just taking the Hideo Kojima approach and just making whatever the fuck you want, and whether or not people like it or not is their problem?
Yeah, I think making something like art, like some people are gonna not like it, and some people are gonna they're gonna love it, and some people are just gonna be mild on it. So I think if I can just capture and give some people a fun time, I think that'll be enough. And if it's not enough, then I'll keep trying to improve and fix the things the community kind of has a problem with that are valid. So I think in the long run, I think so, at least some people will appreciate it.
One of the things that has become more so maybe not popular, maybe not even really normalized, but become more frequent in gaming in general, is this idea of sort of like a live, not even a live updating game, but sort of like a living game in a sense. Sort of different from something like, you know, like Fallout 76, where obviously, you know, it's an online game, so obviously it's going to continue to like have to roll out new stuff. But something a little bit closer to like No Man's Sky, for example, to where like new stuff is constantly coming out, and it's like, you know, adding new content or changing specific bits of content. Perhaps maybe the better correlation would be like Starfield, right? Where it's like a single player experience, but it's sort of being like upgraded and tweaked and improved and made like better and better and better as the game continues to, you know, be a thing and be relevant and have a fan base and a community. One of the smaller the more recent to date this episode updates is the Free Lanes update, which isn't out yet now as we're recording this, or at the time of this video's upload, but is like a week away. No, probably a couple days away. Anyway, is the Free Lanes update, which allows players to travel freely from planet to planet, and in orbit in one planet, fly to orbit in another planet. One of the older things was the map changed. Originally, it was like this. It was this weird grid map that was really, really not good, really bad. But then they changed it to sort of like a 3D overshot photo of like the world that you're on, and it's sort of like imposed over the map. Infinitely better. But again, that's in the concept of a live, like a constantly like a living game in a sense, where it's like being updated and like tweaked for either, you know, because the developers didn't have enough time to implement everything they wanted, or they want community feedback to like, you know, refine the game and make it better and make it more quote unquote player friendly, but not player friendly, but more so designed as the players wanted. In a mod sense, though, I can't think of any mod that's like done that previously. Obviously, you know, there's like new stuff and like, oh, we like, you know, we tweaked this bit because of, you know, player feedback. We tweaked that bit because of player feedback. But as far as like bigger changes or like bigger updates, like new content and stuff, I haven't really seen a mod that's done that. Maybe you have. You can definitely.
Sorry, London. Fallout New London. Yeah, they did that. They're coming out with a new DLC.
But was that DLC based on like player feedback?
I don't know, but it's definitely, they're getting a new DLC out, so there's definitely new content. Probably what they heard from the community has been addressed somewhat. I'm not quite sure.
And like that's more so to my question, because you're talking about like, you know, upgrading and tweaking the game based on player feedback and stuff, which I don't think is inherently a bad idea. In fact, I would probably say that's actually like a really good idea. But as far, because to the point, you have a creative direction that you want to take the mod, both as the lead developer, but also like the team in general, right? The team has a concept and a vision for the mod, and that concept or that vision may not be exactly what the community is going to like give feedback about. So I suppose my question is, how rigidly are you and the team going to stick to your original idea and your original vision for the mod and for like the kind of game that, or the kind of mod experience that you're building here, versus how much you're willing to shape the vision to match player expectations, player wants, player desires, as far as the narrative goes? How much is input going to change your vision?
I think if I get feedback and it's like, hey, this system is really unfun, I'm getting glitches, I'm getting bugs, and all these things, I think that is one of the most major problems. I think if I'm just getting a bunch of feedback and they're like, yo, this system sucks, it's not fun, it's just pointless, why are we doing it? It's just busy work, then yeah, I'll probably be like, yeah, we'll change that and we'll fix that, we'll tweak that, or we'll try to work with the community somewhat. I don't think we're going to be super rigid. But I think we have a structure that I think is going to work that we can change depending on feedback. I think right now most people actually enjoy getting to explore and see what the mod has to offer so far. Of course, with all the growing pains that we have right now, might be very frustrating if there was like a big like lock, like you got locked in the area or something like that. So
Yeah,
definitely
like
trying
you
to
get
smooth
soft
that out.
locked somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, to like sort of draw a parallel. I feel like that's sort of like the same sort of approach that Starfield is taking. More so probably because like it's a newer IP, and I mean, I've fucking talked about this constantly, but like I feel that Starfield was like from its inception supposed to be something that was more like system heavy and sort of like more modular, with like, you know, making it so that it's like easier to mod, more people can like mod for the game. There's all this free real estate with all the fucking space on different planets and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was designed just well enough to have like a full complete story, and built big enough to have, again, lots of real estate, to allow Bethesda to, you know, as it continues to like develop and craft the game, add new stuff, change the way the mechanics work, or not the mechanics, but like different elements of the game, to you know, player feedback, their own creative vision, this, that, and the other thing. But then like, again, I don't feel like that's something, because like, you know, we like, to the extent of like Fallout London and new DLCs and like bits and pieces that they tweak, I think that's cool. I think that's dope. It seems like, especially with the style of game that you're crafting here, it feels a bit more unique. It's a more unique approach with a unique design philosophy, which, again, to be clear, I think is really interesting because it's so different. But I'm not especially in the Fallout fandom, I'm not 100% sure how accepting people are to difference. And of course, you know, there's varying degrees of difference. But when it comes to modding, I think people are usually a bit more open, a bit more welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I just always constantly have just like stuck in the back of my head is sort of like the not really so much the shadow, because that makes it feel more ominous, but sort of like the ripple effect of like, you know, Fallout the Frontier. And I feel like we're the waves have kind of like died down a whole lot because of like, you know, the separation in time, but also because like, you know, they're making a new game, or not a new game, but like they're funnily enough, they're actually probably could be technically said to be doing the exact same thing, where they're taking player feedback and they're going back to make sort of that, you know, 2.0 version of the mod and stuff like that. And I just think that's interesting that you're sort of, well, maybe not so much interesting, but you're approaching it in a very similar way. And I'm interested to see how the fan base reacts to that sort of modulability of the of both the story, or the way you're approaching the story, the way you're approaching gameplay, and the way you're approaching updates and system and like element changes to the game. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. I think, like I said, yeah, I think some people are gonna say, "Hey, you suck. This is terrible. I hate what you did." And there's gonna be people saying, "Oh, I love it. I love it." And like, if you look at like Dust, you know the Dust mod, right, for Fallout New Vegas? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's, like, no NPCs you can talk to, and that's such a like, you're playing a New Vegas game where there's no NPCs to talk to. That's such a huge departure, but, like, it just works, and I think I would just follow what I would wanna do. Like, I think it's cool that you can sandbox around, and then there's different NPCs you can, like, change how their lives are a bit, and maybe you'll join this faction, and you'll do some, like, fucked up shit by accident or stuff like that. I think that's just interesting, and I think more personal stories between characters is why like Dead Money was so good to so much people. And I think if you start these small locations and they all feed into the whole narrative over time, and you're interacting with characters you actually like, I think that means a lot, and you'll build that emotional bond to eventually you will care about everything going on.
what narrative in the or maybe not narrative, but what story in the Fallout universe has been like the biggest inspiration for you from a creative standpoint?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Maybe I think like Fallout 1, yeah, between the Vault Dweller and the Master. I think that moral, like, just narrative. Oh, you come here and you find this guy, and he's so ingrained in his doctrine that he thinks these super mutants are going to be the future, and he's slightly right. He's kind of, and you kind of can agree with him if you think about it from his side. Is that, like, yeah, humans are destructive, and we'll always find ways to fight each other. And if you kind of agree with that, you can dip yourself in the goo and become a super mutant. So I think, yeah, that's one of the best stories and quests that I could think of that really inspired it. And I think it's even though you've never really met the Master, you keep hearing about him, and you kind of start getting like little knowledge. You're getting more interested. What's this? Well, he's got this whole church. Who are these guys in the purple robes? So why are they killing ghouls in Necropolis? So, like, it's like that little nuggets of information you build up everywhere, and then it comes to the full picture.
It the story builds a presence of the Master in your mind before you actually like meet him in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because before then you never even met him. Never met him once. Never talked to him. Nothing. But like, I see Colonel Autumn more times than you see the Master. But the Master has somehow more screen presence than Colonel Autumn.
And it's very different from like Fallout 2, where like, I mean, it could be argued that like Frank Horrigan has a much like bigger presence than the Master. But it's different because you see Frank Horrigan more often. So that presence is just kind of constantly there, as opposed to in Fallout 1, where his presence is just more so like hinted at, and you're allowed to build it up in your mind. Kind of in the same way that they did with Fallout 4 with the Institute, where the Institute is like constantly talked about. It's not until later in the narrative where you're finally like because you like build it up and you hear like nothing but bad things about the Institute, and then you actually get there and it's kind of like it's almost like walking into an Apple store where like
pretty much everything's white. You're like, what's going on here?
Hey, this actually isn't really all that bad. Maybe there's like a disconnect or a misunderstanding.
Yeah, you thought it was going to be like a Terminator concentration camp, but it's just all white.
Like, oh man, this is actually kind of chill. But yeah, it's to that point specifically, it's a very different it's a very different approach, and I think because like Fallout 1 had a bit more of like a horror vibe to it, and I think the way they did it in Fallout 1 is a much more. I don't even want to say it's like better or worse. It's as far as like approaching the main villain. I think they did it really well. And as far as the like inspiration and stuff, more so related to the larger like Fallout world, because Fallout as a series is interesting because I feel like, because like with any game series, when there's like new games and new like iterations and new stories introduced, there's always like bits of like new pieces of the lore, like like the Assassin's Creed franchise, right? You constantly go into like different parts of the world, and not really much of what you know about the world changes. It's just sort of going about basically telling the same story in like a slightly different way with slightly different thematic focuses.
Yeah, it's a reskin.
In a lot of cases, unless you're talking about something like sort of like I feel like Black Flag would have been like the first like sort of different thing where you don't originally start off as somebody more so connected to the Brotherhood in some form or fashion. And then you go into Assassin's Creed Rogue, where you're coming from the exact opposite side, where you're originally started off as an assassin, but then you become a Templar. And I thought that was pretty cool. But more so, the basic story never really changes, and not story, but the basic concept, the way you're looking at the world specifically never really changes. But when it comes to Fallout, which funnily enough does sort of the same thing where it's like new game set in a new location. But you see more things that are different about the world. It's not just like, here's the same story or the same world outlook, but just in a different location. You're constantly either dealing with, some new threat, whether it's the Scorched in Appalachia, the Enclave in Fallout 3, the Enclave in Fallout 2, the Enclave in, son of a bitch, it's always
the Enclave. The Enclave. The Enclave.
Right. But every game has like a different major antagonist or a different major thematic focus, like we talked about earlier. With all of these sort of like changing elements of like, the lore, the outlook of the story and stuff like that. Again, looking back, as you've been, as long as you've been a Fallout fan and seen like new bits of story enter the arena, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Fallout Prime, how have you seen the not only the fandom change, but also like the approach to like world design and the way the world, like the tone of the world? Like, I don't think it's controversial to say that the tone of Fallout 1 and like a lot of the Black Isle games is different from like the Bethesda games. But
100%.
How have you sort of seen both of those sides of the franchise change, and what are your thoughts about that? How have you seen things change, and how have you responded to this change?
Yeah, I think Fallout's going through like an intermediate period where it's not quite sure where it wants to be right now. And with Bethesda, I don't think Bethesda really like knows exactly what to do right now. I think if they lean more into the RPG elements, I think they'll win some more fans back. I think if they dumb it down more, I think they'll probably sell more copies. But I think it's gonna change the culture where the original fans or maybe more RPG lovers will just kind of pass. It just really depends on what they can do. And I think the art style, yeah, of course, has changed a lot. Because if you look at Fallout 1, it's way different. I mean, I really, it's really a shame that Adam Adamowicz died, because his art direction on Fallout 3 was just amazing. It just poured Fallout. I think that is some of the closest art we've gotten to the original Fallout game, and like really, really well thought out retrofuturism.
I don't know, like probably me personally, especially since, I'm a content creator, and one of my I'm a Fallout content creator specifically. So like sort of my whole thing is to sort of like think a lot and overthink a lot about the Fallout universe. And like, I don't know, I just constantly keep coming back to like, I think Fallout 3 is probably like the closest tonally that Bethesda has like ever gotten.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like, not just tonally, but like, I would probably
really
argue that like Fallout 3 is like the most Fallout experience.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, people are gonna rip me to shreds for this, but I think 3 has a way better art direction than New Vegas. Like, I love the oranges of New Vegas, but I think just the buildings and how everything was designed was just super like on the nose, on the point of Fallout.
It's not even like art direction stuff. I mean, not just art direction. It's like the tone and the environment and the way the story is sort of rolled out. Everything is sort of like clouded in this like almost like somber atmosphere. Like, there's definitely I feel as if like
suffering.
Yeah. In a sense, yeah. There's definitely some people that are suffering a lot more. I would say that the people of Big Town are definitely like in a much rougher place than like, the people in Rivet City.
Yeah.
But everything sort of has like just a dour feeling to it. I don't know to what extent that's the fucking the green EMB that they got plugged in there, but like it feels. Again, it feels more somber. It feels more melancholy, in a sense. Even in the more like heroic or like like energetic or upbeat sections. Like in is it what's the name of the town where the Mechanist and the Antagonizer are fighting?
Canterbury Commons.
Yeah. So like that's just fucking. That's got to be like one of the most cartoony missions in the entire franchise. But it's so good. But it's still surrounded by just this like. Again, there's just this dour tone about it, and it's just like it doesn't really affect the story itself, but it's there.
Yeah,
it's always there.
Yeah, I think Fallout 3 really shines in its non-main quest locations, and there's some are better than others. Like I like Oasis just because like it's the euthanasia question, and then like they had good elements, but like they shot themselves in the foot with the main story a bunch, and then there's some other like stuff that didn't make sense, like the super mutant. Fox not being able to stop the reactor from blowing up, even though he's immune to radiation.
See, I think that was really interesting because one of the, I don't remember, actually that might not be an exact one-to-one narratively, but I always kind of like it. I mean, not like constantly, not as like a big leaning point for the story, but I kind of like it when some things that sort of like, oh, this would make like practical sense sometimes just aren't the practical reality, right? Because like with that to lean into that example specifically, it like makes absolute sense. Fox, you're immune to radiation. Fucking get in there. And he's just like, yeah, he's like, nah, that's not my story, bruh.
You have your own path.
Yeah. But it's like on its face, it's like, oh, that's such a bullshit response. Which like it is like, what the fuck, man?
It's like, but then the guy has a kidney he can give you, and he's like, no, that's your own path to die. I can't give you the kidney.
Right, exactly. And it's like from like a narrative perspective, it almost feels like the only thing that makes like emotional sense, right? It almost feels like the thing that makes the most sense for the story that's being told. Because one of the things that I constantly think about, which again leans back into like Fallout's like narrative structure and like its lore and stuff, because I think also and ice hot or like burning hot take here, Fallout fans are obsessed with the lore. Fallout is very like lore heavy and like consistently focused and stuff like that, which are like, cool and everything. But a lot of the times lore building and world expansion and stuff like that, it's like a lot of the times it's like good and it's nice to sort of like build the stage that the characters take part on. But like if it doesn't really have a larger impact on the character's story arc, it doesn't really mean anything, like it doesn't affect the it doesn't affect the story of the courier if like this like random lore change is different between like New Vegas and Fallout 4 or like Fallout 3 or whatever. For the macro like world design, it kind of questions, well, now how did that happen? How does that make sense? But for the story that you're experiencing as a player, some elements just have to be more narratively focused. And I think, because again, it's still a little bit of a bullshit answer, Fox, but like from a narrative perspective, it feels right. It feels accurate in a sense, even if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think they could have fixed it if they had just put like maybe just remove Fox, or maybe had not, or like maybe had him be like battling the Enclave at the time.
Yeah,
and he couldn't have got there or something. Like they could have made it work, and I guess maybe they didn't have time. I don't know. They like these giant world spaces. I mean, and it's having the Gek and the creation kit. It's pretty much a copy of what they were using. And like it allows for a lot of fast iteration and a lot of things to be built really quickly. So I mean, that helps a lot. But even though it's just a massive place, and Fallout 3 feels a bit empty. But I think that's design choice to make it feel more like the road. And then you get maybe you'll get attacked by like a fucking super high level Deathclaw.
Yeah,
as soon as you walk out of the vault.
Yeah, because like some art style is just like, not art, well, like art style, but like some narrative choices just kind of just like are the way they are, even if they don't make like a lot of practical sense. Or at least like maybe not even subjective, but like I feel like a lot of the times people look at narratives as like, oh, if I was in that situation, I would do X, Y, or Z. And like, yeah, well, you're not in that situation. And you're not in like that story and stuff. It's sort of very, very much like, you know, the classic, like, because you see it a lot with like horror, like, oh, like why are they being so stupid? Why are they going in there? Characters in a horror movie don't know they're in a horror movie. You know?
No, that's the dissonance you get from the audience, and the funny thing is that's kind of what happens when you're a game developer too. Like, you know so much about the world, but you're not going to really understand how the player will interact with that world.
Yeah. You don't see the same thing that the player sees. You see it from the macro, you know, omniscient level, and you don't see it from the same perspective as, you know, the fucking hamster running through the maze or anything like that.
Yeah. The rat in the maze, yep, 100%.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, and I mean, it's the same with sort of like, I mean, I think maybe you see it more so often with like TV shows and stuff like that, because that's more like narratively locked in. Whereas with video games, there's a little bit of like leeway to like player agency and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can just do anything.
Yeah. And to that, I think that like, you know, movies and TV shows are often, especially when it comes to lore, or even like more so like cinematically narrative driven, like again, Assassin's Creed. It's, you know, like sandbox and stuff, but it is following a very like strict narrative path. There's not a whole lot of, you know, wiggle room with the way the story plays out. But when it comes to those styles of games or those styles of media, oftentimes they like, you know, they create the most solid understandings or solid viewpoints of like, you know, this aspect of the world or like the larger aspect of the world. To that extent, when it comes to Fallout Prime, what has been like your sort of outlook on the on the series as it's, you know, as we've experienced seasons 1 and 2 so far and are, you know, going into like future seasons and stuff like that? How do you feel as if it's been sort of an accurate or maybe like faithful representation of the franchise? And even to that extent and separate from that extent, how do you feel as much as it's like, you know, honored the franchise or like harmed the franchise or, you know, this, that, and the other thing? What do you think of Fallout Prime?
What do I think of Fallout Prime? I think it has its moments. I don't think it's perfect or anything. I'm not gonna sit here and like glaze the TV show, and I don't think I'm gonna sit here and down it either, because I think you can enjoy the show. I think it's enjoyable. Now I think people are gonna argue over the lore a bunch. They're like, oh, this was wrong and this was and the T-Rex was not in the right place. I'm like, yeah. So if people are gonna argue about that things, and I can see where both sides are coming from.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable. I think it's definitely not crap. I'm not gonna sit here and say that.
Yeah. it's as because I have a lot of like experience with like sort of analyzing and like digesting film in a past life. I was more like film focused, like narrative structure was like a bigger part of my hobbies and such. And to the extent where it relates, especially to like the games and like the game world, it's one of those things where like me personally, I think it's really good. It's not the greatest thing, but I think especially as far as like video game adaptation and especially like Fallout, I think it did a really good job. Like you said, there's definitely some high points, some really high points, but also some points where it's like, that's not as like satisfying as I would have liked. No. But then like, again, like the effect it's had on because like Todd Howard said it in probably the most Todd Howard way possible. And I could be misquoting here, but if I remember correctly, he said that Fallout 5 would either be taking place in a point in time where the events of Fallout Prime were happening, have happened, or will soon happen. And it's like, okay, so Fallout 5 is going to take place at any point,
Yeah, at any point
in the relative timeline in relation to Fallout Prime. Thanks, Todd.
I think it's ready when it's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy the characters. Like Walton Goggins has a screen presence, of course, and I think the other characters have kind of been built up enough where they're more likable. I think it was kind of sparse in the first season, but when you get to know them, they're a little better. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I definitely want to see Fallout 5 have more RPG elements and more fun ways to traverse the map.
What do you want, like cars, horses, flying
I want
mounts?
train.
What flying
Yeah, they need to
mounts?
make
Is
a
that
train.
it?
I want a train, okay, with an AA gun on top of it, shooting down a scorched dragons.
Right, and then I want to call in my I want to call in my scorched beast companion who just comes in and just fights, and then Parthenax shows up for like, no fucking, it doesn't matter, it's all the same universe anyway.
Parthenax comes in with the chair,
right, and then oh fuck, here comes Thomas the Tank Engine.
All right, the blades can go fuck themselves. I'm not
right, seriously.
Eat shit. I'm gonna listen to Delphine's bitch ass. Fuck
right.
her.
Fucking dweebs.
I need you to go do this. Like, why don't you come help me, huh?
Right?
No,
How about that?
That's your job.
How about you actually fucking help me out a little bit, huh? But that actually kind of segues pretty good into my next question. Obviously we talked a lot about Fallout and stuff like that. Your modding experience. I could be wrong, and again, like you could correct me. A lot of your modding experience seems to again your front facing experience is very like Fallout focused, Fallout centric. With both your own like personal work and then as it relates to larger projects, do you have any plans to sort of like explore any other Bethesda, or even maybe not Bethesda focused, but like any other modding projects, like, or not modding projects, but like different games mod projects, or like different genres of mod projects? Do you have any sort of plans to do anything with, like, Elder Scrolls or even Starfield or Fallout 4 or anything like that? Or is it like you're more so like in a niche with Fallout New Vegas, or you just haven't fucking thought that far ahead. You got a big enough meal on your plate with Fallout Chicago, it seems.
Yeah. I think I'm just building up a team really right now, and I want to just finding trustworthy people who are good workers, and like I like to work with, and we do well together. And I think eventually after this, if the bond stays, we'll eventually go on to create our own company. And I'd like to do like comic books, like TV shows, like video games. I want to have a rather large like repertoire of stuff to do. Especially, I mean, we're building a great team, and I want to start getting like, I would like to do a business, because then I can get the team paid. Everyone on my team deserves, like, everyone's doing this for free, and it's like I think this project would have cost millions of dollars, like $1 million at least, or at least $500,000 of assets and just time that everyone put in. So they're a blessing, really. Like I couldn't have done it without their help.
So you're talking about going into like not just like modding, you're talking about going into like larger scale, like maybe like development, because you like, do you get any plans for like modding Starfield or anything? You're like, oh no, we're gonna like start printing comic books and making movies and shit. Like, oh my god, that's
very ambitious.
Yeah,
very ambitious.
Obviously, like like idealistic, maybe not far flung, but like idealistic future stuff. But yeah, you speak more to that. Like your ambitions, maybe. At the very least, like post Fallout Chicago. Let's just say Fallout Chicago lands, you have like, a dedicated like little side thing going on where like you continue to like provide support for that, release like, a little bit of new content, this, then the other thing, tweak some stuff, yada, yada. What's like the post or like near post Chicago future look like?
Well, that's definitely like at least a year and a half away. But definitely just fix up patches, get everyone's feedback on it. If we need to tweak some things, we could probably tweak some things around, and then we'll like finalize the mod, and then we'll probably move on to making. I was gonna make some different like types of games. I already got prototypes set up in Unreal, so I'm working on those, and then just building the art direction with our concept artist after that, and seeing if people give us funding or maybe go to a publisher and ask for some money, stuff like that. So just building up our team more.
Yeah, get something like on the on the tracks and running.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, that's what Thane. I forget his real name off the top of the head. The lead developer of Fallout New California. He did pretty much the exact same thing you're talking about. He originally started off making New California. For the audience, you can just go and listen to my interview with Thane. We interviewed him a good long while ago. And then you can come back to this interview and tell me all the shit I got wrong because I'm like misremembering or what. But that's basically what he did. He started, doing mods and stuff like that. And then he made New California. And then he sort of, I think there might've been like an in-between thing, but he also did the same thing where he sort of like used that to springboard into something, bigger and more something that he was able to actually get like, funding and like make like an actual full job, which is really cool. Because you see that happen with Fallout modders a lot. It's either a case where like somebody like Eleonora, who for a little bit was working, I think it was I can't remember if it was a studio that she founded or like got on with, and they were making like a game, but unfortunately closed up shop. But then of course, like she's making mods for like Starfield and continues to make mods for like, Fallout and just everything Bethesda coded. What a gift she is. But then you have other developers like, if I'm remembering the name correctly, Grilled Turkey, and like one or two people from like Fallout London that actually went on to work for Bethesda. Again, another callback to a previous guest, Ropaket, the developer of another. We talked about this before we started recording. Like, there's just so many Fallout mod projects out there, especially when it comes to world space mods. He's creating, I believe, still creating a Fallout mod called Fallout Coos Bay, which is based off of Coos Bay, Oregon. But it was the same thing. He's a modder. He started off, doing mods and stuff like that, and eventually was able to land a job working for Bethesda. When I actually got him on and interviewed him, the like second computer that was at his desk actually had like a working pre-release mod or a working pre-release version of Starfield. So, it just shows how not like the expected trajectory of Bethesda modders will go, but a prediction for how much that can sort of launch you into something bigger and better and more, in a sense, almost like artistically filling, right?
Oh yeah,
because it's like, I would imagine like anybody who mods definitely gets like a sense of like fulfillment from the work that they do, but being able to also like make a living off of it, that must feel like a dream.
Oh yeah, it's definitely with the industry can be rough, 100%. Like there's been mass layoffs of recently. The voice actors went on strike, so there's definitely been a lot of drama, and it's not all sunshine and roses. But yeah, definitely when you get a paycheck for just doing something you love as like a game developer, it's definitely a big win. And I think the corporatization of a lot of companies has ruined that, and it's just churning people out too much, and it burns people out, of course.
Especially with like, and this is like another thing that's gonna, I say date the interview, but like, I mean, the episode is most likely going to come out very shortly after we're doing this interview. But like the infusion, the forced progression of the unwanted injection of AI and like generative AI into the creative. Yeah.
It's the elephant in the room, really.
Yeah, fucking DLSS 5 and all that fucking like the yassification of the fucking art style and stuff like
Looks
that.
like shit.
Yeah, and like to the extent where it could be like refined and as like a tool for like in-house use, like Bethesda's like Todd Howard's talking about how it's like, oh, like we could like use the model as like an in-house thing where we're not like, scraping the internet and stealing people's like art and stuff to train their model, but like train it on like in-house stuff, right? Our in-house creative artists and use that to like refine our own production to the extent where like that could maybe work. Fucking nobody wants this AI fucking Facebook, Instagram filter bullshit. It's like what? Nobody asked for this.
It's the most like it's just a waste of resources. Like we could imagine if you trained all this on like cancer research, like here's like millions of cancer pictures, and they used all the energy and resources on that. I bet we could have like found out like thousands of people had cancer or something. And it's just it's this never ending hole. It's a vortex is what it is, and it's just gonna eat up everyone until it gets all the data it needs. It's very scary because I think NVIDIA just announced, was it VGI or whatever? It's like it's deep learning AI.
Yeah. It has like AI in general just has some as like a technology, right? It has so many like practical applications that could be useful, especially like you sort of alluded to in like the medical field. It's got so many applications that would actually like really help and really support a lot of like technical work, specifically to separate like technical work from like creative work, like we see with a lot of generative AI and stuff. There's so much like stuff it could do like on the technical back end that would just make fucking like everybody's lives better. To an extent. In the very similar sort of conversation with like crypto, I think there's like the techno or the energy cost, right? Where it's like, oh, like you got to run this, and like we're burning more fossil fuels and stuff, and like to the extent like the environmental question, I think that it's definitely it's also relevant, but I think that becomes more of like a question of like how we generate electricity as opposed to like more like how the technology is being utilized, right? Because like I think one of the conversations is like some metric of like, oh, it's using like this much clean water for like this, that, and the other thing. It's the because like when you search anything these days, it's got the AI answer response thing right at the top.
Yeah, it just auto generates for you. You can actually turn that off if you have the right quotations, but it's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I think it might have been a little bit more. Maybe it's off at this point. I don't know. But like I remember hearing a statistic where it's like, oh, like that's bad because it's using like the same very valid complaint that like all uses of AI has at this point is like, but now that like one little like AI search thing is now like basically on the same level as just like the search itself, right? So it kind of becomes like a wash because of if they're equated to the same thing, then it's like, okay, what's the loss here? But then like again, there's a larger argument around AI and stuff. It's just, it's a big thing. It's stupid and it's confusing and for a lot of people, myself included, it just fucking pisses me off.
Yeah, no, I think we're the only people who really want it are like CEOs of these companies who can make billions of dollars off stealing our data and just everything. I mean, it's really a travesty to humanity. Like, there's people who don't even have clean water, and they're just dumping it into these generative AI things so some bot can read Rule 34 pictures.
Yeah. Yay. Whoopee.
Yeah, thanks.
God. I forgot how we spun onto this AI tangent, but
I don't know. Yeah, we go like to Fallout. There's enough. I'm sure everyone's already mad enough about AI.
The design is again. I think that it could be used in some sort of like technical back end stuff for like lighting or processing and stuff like that. Like, okay, Cool. That's great. All the generative stuff, fuck that shit.
Yeah, I mean, like it's good for code. Like you can use it for that if you want to like check for errors and stuff. It can't write code for shit. Not like
Yeah.
that. It's terrible at it.
Not even a little.
No, I like you could get a novice coder and he's better than AI.
Yeah.
Or he or she, whatever. Anybody who knows how to code.
This is actually kind of funny. I just now remembered it. Today before we started doing the interview, I had a stream that I was doing, and somebody in my chat actually said that there was, what did he say? He said like there was like his job had like, you know, just like a fun little like work thing to do. They were having, I don't know why specifically his job was doing this of all things, but he said that his job was doing like, oh, we have like an AI art contest, and like if you win, you get like, you know, like, oh, pizza lunch or whatever, you know, something dumb like that. So like, you know, everybody submitted like, oh, just did like a little quick fun little like AI generated art thing for the contest and stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't make an AI generated art, but he made his own art to look AI generated, and he fucking won.
Yeah, of course, because human art's always better than AI.
And isn't that just so fucking funny? Even when you're propped up in a situation like all of this is AI generated art, which one do you like best? That one. Here's the plot twist. People made that.
AI doesn't understand what unique is. It only like studies images and it replicates them. So it just makes this complete neutral base of like just nothingness, like, and it just generates the same thing over and over.
It's a mirror.
Yeah, pretty much.
It reflects what it thinks you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, the scary part is when it becomes intelligent and enough to learn and like really be a deep learning machine, and then that's when it can like start tricking humans. Like, I think wasn't there some news thing about how it almost like escaped a lab or something?
I mean, they've been fucking saying that shit for like the last like 2-3 years. Like fucking.
Maybe it has. Maybe it has already.
Maybe it's already out there. Maybe that's what fucking Palm Beach Pete is. Maybe he's just a fucking AI fucking hallucination that's gone crazy. I don't like fucking know.
Delamain all over here running a company.
Right. It's the exact same thing with like, oh, like there's aliens and shit. Like, cool. When like, unless it's gonna pay my rent, I don't fucking give a shit.
Yeah, no one cares.
Like whatever. Just let happen. Whatever's gonna happen.
Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully something better than what I think. But yeah, or I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Or worse, whatever. It's either gonna like we're gonna get, it's gonna be dope because things are gonna get better, or it's gonna get dope because we're gonna get closer to the Fallout timeline. But then it's gonna suck again. So you know.
Hey man, as long as I can find baked beans at a trash can 200 years later.
Exactly. I mean, I got the different flavors of Nuka-Cola. I got.
There you go.
Which one do I got? I need the quantum. I still got to find the quantum.
The sun sarsaparilla and give yourself cancer. I think that was the lore, right? Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I can't remember specifically.
You get something to you, like you get like
something. Yeah, I mean they all do something to you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's all terrible corporatism.
Right. Back on to get back on Fallout real quick. As far as you've seen both the franchise develop over the, I'm going to say over the years, but over the decades, like looking back at like Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 and the direction that it's gone narratively and artistically, both by the hand of Black Isle Studios and then, you know, Obsidian and Bethesda and like on and on and on, as it's changed over the years, as the community has changed over the years, as you know, modding has changed over the years, as everything in the sort of like construct that is Fallout as a conceptual media, as you've seen it change and as you've seen it develop over the years, what sort of direction do you see? Do you see it going into the future? And what is more so your outlook on that? And how do you think, if that outlook is negative, how do you think that outlook could change into a more positive direction? In other words, what direction do you see Fallout going, and what sort of hopefulness do you have for it going into that future?
Well, I mean, I think Fallout 76 has been like pretty, whether what you think about it or not, it's definitely made the money. So Bethesda has made money off Fallout 76. So I hope they're going to take that money and they're going to really sit down and they're going to like think about how Fallout 5 needs to be. And I think them not saying anything is kind of a good sign. It means they're like, I mean, how long has it been since Fallout 4 came out? Like 8 years now?
It came out in
7?
2015 because Nuka World's the Nuka World DLC dropped in the end of 2016. I want to say August 2016.
Okay, so like 11 years almost now.
Yep.
So like so 11 since we got a major.
We just did all that backwards reverse math. The fucking anniversary edition dropped like what, over the summer?
Yep.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, so it's like so I hope they're over those years. Like, I mean, look at the new Elder Scrolls. They're taking their time with it. We haven't even seen gameplay of it yet. So I think they've looked at the negative reception of their games, like 76, and then they built upon that. And I mean, if you look at Fallout 76 now, there's more dialogue options. Like, you have more skill checks. It looks like. So I think it is hopeful. And I think as long as they get like someone who can help with the writing, the writing team is good, we'll get a good story, hopefully. So I'm optimistic. I think they're working on it.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Grim Doss, lead developer of the Fallout New Vegas mod, Fallout Chicago. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow to be notified of future episodes, and consider subscribing to our Patreon for early access to new uploads to help keep episodes ad-free and to improve the quality and frequency of transmission. Until next time, dear listener, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all out there in the wasteland.